Hello, welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Paul Mitchell. I'm a Vice President with Beneficial Bank. I am your co-host this evening. And joining me, another co-host, we have Chuck Steege. He is President of SFG Wealth Planning Services and SFG Investment Advisors, Inc., an SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Welcome, Chuck. Good to have you on the show today.
Good to see you again, Paul.
We have a very interesting guest later on, Manish Gorawala. But in the meantime, we'll talk a little bit about what's been going on in the investment world and the financial world and the business world.
Excellent.
So I see that that you are both a certified financial planner, licensee, and a certified equity professional specialized in the area of executive stock compensation. Wow, that's quite a mouthful.
Yeah, it's
Chuck.
a little bit that's involved.
Could you give us a little more flavor of what that really all means?
Sure. So, you know, executives have very complex stock-based compensation issues. And, you know, they are the best and the brightest, but they really lack one thing, and that's time. The plans that are being rolled out, whether they are from the design phase or whether they've been implemented and now it's a matter of trying to understand and unpack them, executives are really find these plans to be confusing and complex.
Sure. So your firm has been focused most recently on the nuances and changes going on. Could you highlight the trend toward performance awards?
Sure. So we've seen over the last 3 to 4 years a dramatic move, especially amongst the C-suite executives, to where they are now beginning to be granted stock performance awards. And the reason for this is that companies are really trying to more closely align performance performance with shareholder interests. And so, you know, making sure that the companies are performing, either they're they're driving earnings or they're driving the valuation of the stock up, and those executives are being rewarded based on those grants.
Interesting. This may be a kind of a difficult concept, but what happens to these performance awards upon the executive's death?
Yeah, that's always a difficult time, especially for the surviving spouse. And really the best way to answer that is you have to look at your company's plan document because each plan is going to be handled a little bit differently. Some companies will accelerate maybe 100% of whatever has been granted, they'll vest. And again, just as a reminder as to what vesting is really the ability for an executive to have a right to whatever that award is. So until they vest, they aren't actually in the possession of the executive. So the plan will oftentimes dictate whether whatever has been granted is accelerated to 100% or whether that grant is only earned to a certain portion.
Could you give us an example of accelerated vesting?
So let's say there's an executive that has been granted, let's say 3,000 performance stock units. And so when that executive, let's say the grant was made in January of 2013, and normally those grants would fully vest if the performance metrics are met January of 2016. But that executive dies, let's say, in year 2015, January of 2015. So, you know, it would be expected that that executive maybe would have earned only 2/3. Some companies will accelerate, so the full 3,000 of performance stock units become the possession of that executive's estate and therefore passed on to his family.
What is the board's role in determining the payouts?
Well, the board it's very critical. The board is always going to be looking at performance metrics. Were the expectations met or not? It's always the board's determination before the award actually vests. So if, let's say that executive passes on and it's determined 30 days after the close of a fiscal year that the performance metrics have been met, depending on the plan, either that surviving spouse or family member is going to receive 100% or 2/3 of it. But the board makes that determination. These are not awards that are simply earned or vested just by virtue of time going by, enough time or service being provided. It really is driven off of performance.
What are some of the tax issues involved in this type of
Great
compensation?
question. Obviously, when a grant vests, then there's an exchange, and there's an exchange from the company to the executive. And so there are significant ordinary income tax implications at the time of vest. You can imagine that for a surviving spouse, if there's 100% vesting, and let's say the executive was performing at 200%, 3,000 times 2, so 6,000 grants, they would all vest in a single year, and that could be substantial ordinary income that would be added to that to that executive's estate.
So what are some of the financial, personal financial planning issues that one should be taken into consideration?
Let's say it's an example of a surviving spouse, and the performance stock units were earmarked for education funding. It's really going to be important to kind of think about what are the funding needs and what would be the expected value that would come from the performance stock units upon vesting. So that's just one example.
Sounds pretty complicated. Sounds like something somebody really should seek some professional advice that somebody hasn't just done it the first time.
They're very involved, and these are cutting edge awards, and this is, you know, I absolutely agree. This is an area that our firm specializes in helping executives to deal with these.
Yeah. Talking about the financial world, I work for a bank, and recently there's been a flurry in this area of bank mergers, acquisitions, from big out-of-state banks buying local regional banks, a couple of times a smaller bank buying an even smaller bank. A flurry. Any sense of why that's all happening?
Well, I think it's economies of scale. Certainly there are a lot of regulatory pressures, which you would understand being a banker, that the banks are having to come under, and margins are being squeezed. And I would imagine, I mean, that a lot of the consolidation is a result of that. But maybe you could comment on what you're seeing in the industry.
Well, it's been the longest time of very, very low interest rates, certainly in my career in decades, and that certainly impacts banks' earnings. So it's a real struggle to make money with that kind of low interest rate environment. And even though the recessions is well over and all, still banks are kind of trying to come back from those bad times, and companies that they finance also have been cautious in terms of how much debt they're even interested in taking on. So it's been challenging for banks to be profitable and return shareholder value that investors expect.
Paul, is money available, or are companies are they simply not asking for resources? Maybe you can comment on the kind of the business community and the demand for.
There certainly is money available. And it's cheap money. I mean, rates, 3, 4, 5% are typical rates for even small businesses to obtain on short or long-term financing. Banks, though, are still very cautious. Cautious in reaction to things that happened not too long ago. They're cautious in terms of the regulatory environment. The regulators are examining banks, their capital reserves. There's all kinds of new rules regarding that. Big banks in particular that are being judged too big to fail, let's say. Well, they're too big to fail. The government's going to make sure that they have loads and loads of capital reserves. So if bad things happen, the banks, those big banks, will absorb those hits. And as a matter of fact, the largest banks generally are considered not viable candidates to make acquisitions, to get even bigger, because of the regulatory environment and all.
So then the level of competition, if there are fewer players, how's that affect the banking industry?
Well, it's supposed to make it more efficient. When a bank acquires another bank, generally the people that are customer facing retain their jobs, but the back office is decimated because you don't need two identical overheads, two people handling all the checking accounts or doing all the marketing or something like that. So 30% cut of the overall combined expenses is certainly going to be recognized within a year or two.
Mm-hmm. You've been pretty much focusing, I presume, on the domestic banking system. Is there any difference in the international banking climate? Well,
not that what I've read about. The U.S. is still the strongest economy. The U.S. is not considered to be in a recession. There are parts of Europe, certainly parts of Asia, that are considered to still be in recession. So those banks are having a tougher time. There are not too many banks that are trying to enter the U.S. There's a little bit of activity there, but not a lot. And then you have the very strong dollar now. Makes it impacts the international banks also in terms of what they do. The other aspect of banking in terms of regulatory environment are the huge fines that have been imposed upon both domestic and foreign banks. Even Swiss banks, straight, honorable, silent Swiss banks. So that's an area that really gets an awful lot of scrutiny. The flow of terrorist money that has to be controlled.
Sure.
And bank need to be, to comply with the regulations is extreme.
So, if you could talk with us about the banking in light of where the economy is. I think the recent report was for the third quarter in the U.S. was about 1.5%. How are banks reacting to the current economic climate?
Well, with caution. With caution is probably the main word, and it also depends on the bank. Just like any industry, there are good solid banks. There are weak banks. Management of one bank is better than another bank. I mean, one of the recent local acquisitions was rumored to be that the bank that's being acquired now had made a bunch of acquisitions not too long ago. They didn't work out so well. Mm-hmm. So now it's in a weak position. Shareholders are upset. Investors are upset. It came into play. They said, well, let's find somebody to sell. So there's an awful lot happening there. It's ups and downs, and there's still a lot of questions. But overall, I think that, the U.S. is the place to be. We've got a question from one of our viewers. Donald Walker of Marion asks, "How are employment stats showing how the economy is progressing?" Chuck, perhaps you could address that.
Sure, I'm happy to. So there's mixed signals in the labor market. You see the headline number, which the most recent headline number was an unemployment rate of about 5.1%. That's down from 5.5% earlier in the year. You also see the labor participation rate, which really represents the total number of people that are in the workforce or consider themselves to be in the workforce, where the participation has actually been declining. Earlier in the year it was 62.9, and the most recent is read as 62.4. So you see those numbers. And then, of course, new job creation. Last year, the average monthly job creation was about 260 new jobs per month. This year, it's about 198,000. So there's some mixed signals. Yes, we have job creation. It's a little bit slower this year. We don't have as many people in the workforce. But then you have the headline number, which shows, an improved labor market. Mm-hmm. So labor statistics watchers are keeping a close eye on those three components.
Yeah, and the Federal Reserve is too, in terms of how they're going to make interest rates go up, or will probably go up sometimes. Matter of when.
Yep.
So here's how to send your question to Money Matters.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, "Send us your questions." While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
Our featured guest for this show is Manish Gorawala. Manish is CEO and founder of M-Leads. M-Leads manages your leads and events in a way no platform could match. Welcome, Manish, to the show.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So it sounds like you've found a pretty interesting technological way to handle leads.
Exactly, that's right.
How did you get into the business?
Well, my background is in information technology sector over 20 years, and I've been managing business in the IT, software development and consulting services, working with federal and state and local government agencies as well as corporates. And about 2 years ago, as growing that business, I came up with a need to develop a platform that would allow businesses to manage their prospects and manage their events right from their pocket. And they can literally run their business out of the mobile.
So what do you mean by a platform for some of us technologically challenged people?
Right. So when I say platform, it's like these days the term is called software as a service.
Okay.
So in a very simple term, it's like we use electricity, right, in our house. So we buy that from the utility company like Pico or Exelon. And so basically we use it and we pay it according to what we use, right? So the same concept is now in the software development or the software industry, which is called software as a service. And it's a cloud-based solution. So as a company, if you are using, or as a end user using this particular software, then you don't have to invest money in setting up the infrastructure or the hardware, or you don't need to invest money in developing that software. You are just using
the
it.
platform is up here instead of being on my computer.
Exactly, right. So in the current days, the term is called cloud computing. So for example, Amazon or Microsoft, they all have data centers where they keep all these servers, and as you can see, like for Microsoft Office, it's called Microsoft Office 360. So instead of having the Microsoft Office installed on your machine, you are using it on the Microsoft server.
But you've got to have Wi-Fi access or something.
Exactly, Wi-Fi or internet access, or on a mobile. If you are using mobile, then you need to have a carrier service.
So the point of entry for a business, and we presume that it's businesses that you work with?
Exactly. So
and government agencies too.
Government agencies,
right.
Excellent.
Right.
So there are challenges for a small business.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you comment on that?
Yeah. So basically, the driver for this, the drivers for me to develop this particular platform called M-Leads, which is a platform to allow businesses and their sales and marketing team to manage their leads, and also if there is an event organizer who needs to organize a big trade show or conferences, this platform simplifies that, and it gives them the ability to automate all those that process, right? And it brings all that capability inside their mobile devices or any mobile devices.
Could you give us an example? So I go to a trade show and I have my phone, my mobile device in my hand,
right?
And I have your platform.
Correct.
Program on my phone.
Correct.
So I've got to, how do I input information?
Exactly. So before I answer that question, so some of the challenges, like I want to mention that all the businesses faces, right? One of the challenges, every business faces the dependency on the support staff to manage all these data when they go to events or trade show to exhibit their product or services, right? Once they come back, they have somebody helping them out. So it's a dependency, right?
The follow-up.
Exactly, the follow-ups, right? The second thing is, as a manager or as a business owner, the biggest problem is having the visibility across my employee base and their productivity and efficiency, right? In a way that is simple, but at the same time powerful, right? And number three is when companies investing all this money in their sales and marketing activities to go after and find new prospects, right? The idea is what's the return on investment, right? And having that access to those statistics, anywhere, anytime, that's powerful. So all these are currently problems exist across the board, whether it's a big size company or a one employee, small business, right? And that's where this platform solves this problem, right? And I'm not saying that there aren't solutions out there, but those solutions are complex, right? Very hard to use. And the problem the companies have is their employees who are in sales and marketing departments, they are not technical, right? They need some system that speaks to their language, right? That, okay, I'm working for Paul Mitchell, right? Paul asked me to go to some event, trade show in New York City to represent Beneficial Bank, right? I need to be able to capture the leads while I'm there, ability to quickly capture, and right away, before even I come back to Paul's office, right from where I am, I should be able to do my vetting process for my prospects, and then right away I should be able to do my follow-ups.
So how do I capture that data? Do I have to,
okay, so going back to your question, so the MLeads platform allows 5 different value proposition, right? One is the ability to quickly capture the data. So when you are at the event, right from your mobile, you can capture by scanning the business card.
Okay.
You can even speak. It has a voice technology, so you can even speak your contacts information. It captures it, right? You can even take a picture of their badge that they are wearing, right? When you are networking, and it automatically captures the information. And other times what happens is when you are at a networking or conferences, events like that, what happens is you are very busy, right? And in those moments, you are having some very important conversation with a very solid lead, right? But you don't have time to do all these other things.
Right.
Where this platform comes in picture, you can simply just speak and capture that moment. And it gets captured as a voice lead.
So
sounds a little different than collecting a pile of business cards.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So Manish, it sounds like a terrific platform,
Right.
and it's mobile.
Exactly.
How do you find behavior changing? In other words, the traditional salesperson that maybe isn't, is there a difficulty in having them embrace the mobile accessibility?
Not at all. Not at all. Because as I mentioned, the way this platform is designed is in a way that it gets out of the way of regular sales and marketing person, so that they don't need to be technical, right? Basically, all they need to know that, okay, my company has asked me to go to XYZ event, right? Once I'm at the event, I need to capture my leads, right? Right away, I can start doing my lead research and vetting process, right? And then right away, I need the ability to do my follow-ups, send out the information about my company, the marketing collateral or whatever. And right away, I need to be able to call, I need to schedule meetings, everything they can do from their mobile devices, whether it's iPhone or Android or iPad or any tablets, right? And other thing this platform solves is that these days, in this world of mobile technology, companies need to unchain their sales and marketing team. When I say unchained, means right now they are tied to their desktops. They need to come into the office.
That was what I was
right?
getting at.
Yeah.
So that's where this platform comes in, where it says, okay, if you are a company or if you are a manager or if you are a business owner, your sales and marketing team members or employees need to be out there shaking hands and making deals.
Right.
So Manish, you're in both the commercial and in the government.
Exactly.
Your focus. Can you kind of give some examples, success stories that you find?
Right. So as I mentioned, this platform I've been developing over last 2.5 years, and just recently the biggest success that we got is with one of the large company, $1 billion company, and they they do about 1,000 shows, like a trade show, or their sales and marketing people go to these events. And we met them about 6 months ago, and now they have decided to use this platform across their team, right? So that's one of the success story. And we already have, by the way, this platform is available on Apple and Google and Amazon Marketplace, App Store. So it's available all over the world. We have about close to 3,000 users worldwide, registered users worldwide, right? They are from all over the world. And on the government side, we also got a success as well. And the beauty of this platform is the way our business model is that they can use the public cloud to use the service on a monthly subscription, just like Netflix, right? You just pay monthly subscription and you use it. But at the same time, we are also, this platform is flexible. So if the government, some government agency or some large corporation in financial space, let's say, where there are a lot of regulations, where they don't want to use the public cloud, then we also allow them to customize this platform and allow them to use it from their private cloud, right? So the success that we got with one of the government agency, right? Their problem was they were doing a lot of special events, as on their facility, right? On their facility, where the problem is right now, as you know, the security.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is huge these days, in particular on the government, who is coming in and accountability, right? They didn't have that system, and they needed a system where anytime when they are hosting special events for the government or their customers, right? They needed some system where whoever is coming into that facility needed to be checked, validated ahead of time, and also at the time that they arrive, right? So we basically customize this platform, and then we are offering them as well. So it's a very very huge break that we got. So the agency awarded about a 5-year contract. So that's the answer to your question.
So is there a lot of competition in your space?
Yeah, as I said, there is competition. I mean, this space, there are solutions out there, but they are very complex. And second thing is very expensive, right? And then number 3.
So your point of entry is at a lower...
Yeah, it's basically getting on or signing up with Twitter. It's that simple.
Wow.
The way we have made it to use this platform, all you need to fill out is 4 data points, and you are on the platform.
Wow.
So
any of us can go to the App Store and get a look?
Exactly. They can search for on the App Store MLeads Enterprise or MLeads, or they can go to myleadsite.com, which is myleadsite.com, and they can sign up. And we are giving 30-day free trial as well.
Excellent, Manish. That's a great story.
It is a great
technology being used very well, and
absolutely
the great need for it. I mean, sales and marketing, that's where it all starts. You can't do anything else unless you bring in the business at all.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for coming to the show and enlightening us.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next guest will be Mark Mulholland, who is with the Matthew 25 Fund. So, thank you very much for joining us with Money Matters TV, because your money matters.